information and for contact information. Frequently asked questions about these health and safety plans are we required to feed meals in the classrooms? Are we required to wear masks? Can we still send meals home for kids? What if one of the staff members tests positive? Other things with using salad bars, packaging silverware. Many things have already come up in different sessions that I've attended today. Much of this information or the answers to these questions are within some North Dakota Department of Health resources. They were handouts for the last session. They're available on the DPI website. If you didn't have contact or didn't have access to those handouts from last session, just contact our office and we will get them for you. The handouts are recommendations for schools. What about close contact in schools? And then there's a decision tree for exclusion based on for symptomatic individuals in schools. The North Dakota K-12 Smart Restart guidance includes some information as to who determines the color of our state. You know, right now we know that the risk level for North Dakota is green or low. But the governor works with the North Dakota Department of Health on determining the risk level. There might be a situation based on the cases within different counties where one county might go up to an orange just because of a really high spike in cases, whereas other counties will stay low because they haven't seen a big change in their cases within their county. So you can see that the governor works very closely with the North Dakota Department of Health, and a lot of these decisions are made at that level. This information is also on our DPI website under the North Dakota K-12 Smart Restart information. DPI, or the Child Nutrition Office, has developed some guidance also for school food service programs. We have Restart guidance, and this is some guiding questions to inform decisions related to how school programs may continue to meet student needs in a variety of settings, especially when students are unable to get meals. So these are more of a question list of questions that the school should consider, and if they haven't thought about the answers, it might be something that they need to look at, such as what are you going to do if there is for food service, if there's a positive case in a classroom and everybody gets sent home for distance learning? Have you checked with your vendor to make sure that they are able to provide the food products and supplies that you're going to need for the next school year? It's about 2 pages of questions. You don't need to go through it and answer every single question. It's just some guiding questions that will get you thinking about what you might need, and then also will help you understand some of the challenges that might be faced within the next school year. We also have planning for reentry to North Dakota School Food Service. This is more guidance for school food service. This would be, you know, don't use salad bars or share tables in the school year. You know, avoid serving anything that the student would have to self-serve unless it's prepackaged. It's more some of that basic guidance, along with those 2 documents, and those are also items that were sent out with the general session handouts. There are 2 sessions that I feel really provide good information for these back to school sessions that will also help answer some of those questions, and that's the food safety and beyond session, and then the challenges in the kitchen session. Those are the food safety was also already offered this morning, and then the challenges in the kitchen, I believe, is this. I'm not really sure, but all of these sessions are being offered twice during this week, so you should be able to find a time that works for you. Providing meals to distance learners. If the district is looking at providing meals to distance learners, really need to look at whether or not the students are being homeschooled, where the parent or adult provides the educational services, or if it's distance learning where the school provides the services. A district cannot serve and claim meals to students or district may serve and claim meals to students that are distance learning, but they cannot for students that are homeschooled. That's because homeschooled students are not actually receiving their education from or enrolled at the school. The district does indicate if a student is homeschooled in Power School, and that feeds up to our system for state automated reporting system, which is called STARS. So we are able at our office to see which students are homeschooled versus homeschooled. May not be able to identify those are distance learning, but we can see which students are homeschooled. If there's any questions, you can check with your district, definitely. The person that works for Power School would be able to look that up for you. Meals served to distance learnings are going to be claimed through the National School Lunch or School Breakfast Program. It's only students enrolled in school. Pre-K students can be served and claimed if they're enrolled in the school. Meals served to non-students or homeschooled students may not be claimed. And these meals are going to be claimed by individual student eligibility, free, reduced, priced, or paid. Meals may be dropped off or picked up by the parents or guardians, and multiple meals may be distributed at one time. Can only claim meals on days when instruction is provided, so no weekend or school holiday meals. If school is open for childcare on non-instructional days, meals may be claimed through the Child and Adult Care Food Program, and if that school is area eligible or has 50% of their enrolled students eligible for free reduced price meals, and offers an education or enrichment program, meals can be claimed as at-risk meals. Some other meal scheduling options. If students attend school in person for half a week and then do distance learning the other half of the week, the school could send meals home for the distance learning days. If the school is starting late and maybe only operating from 10 to 3 each day, the district could serve lunch and then send breakfast home for the next morning. If the district is serving half days, so half the students attend in person in the morning and then the other half attend in the afternoon. If the students attending in the morning could receive their lunch before they go home, so they could take home their lunch. And if they attend in the afternoon, they could get lunch at school and then breakfast would be sent home for the next day. So students attending in the morning would actually receive breakfast at school and take home lunch, and in the afternoon, students would get lunch at school and take breakfast home. I do know that some districts are developing a schedule that for elementary students that's different than from secondary. So the flexible options are going to be necessary just depending on what's going on. And then some districts are looking at providing some type of a childcare for distance learning days for children where their parents are not at home and need care or need just adult supervision. And so depending on what type of program that is, if it's actually set up for distance learning, those meals could be claimed through the NSLP. If it's more of a child care type program, those meals would be claimed through the Child and Adult Care Food Program. And we will work with the schools to determine what works best and what's allowable in those different types of scenarios. We will be collecting some information down the road once the districts have developed their plans. Not a whole lot, but we are going to need to collect information on the meal service types, days and times students are in school and or distance learning, any type of information that falls under a USDA waiver, because we are required to report to USDA on the waivers that we have been approved for. And we're going to develop a Microsoft form that will collect this information, probably send it out more like in September after the district has finalized their plan and have things going, and it's not quite as hectic as the beginning of the school year will be. It's not something we need to collect right away, but we definitely need to collect it in order for us to be able to complete the reports that are required for the waivers. School year 2021 administrative reviews. These are the districts that are up for review this school year. We are still in the process of deciding how they will be done, whether we'll be doing any type of on-site review. We may be able to do desk audits for all of the reviews. We may have to push some of them off for another year. We might have some flexibility because we received a waiver for a 5-year review cycle a couple years ago. And then there also is some flexibility that might be available with another USDA waiver. They are looking at something. I'm not sure what would be available, but I do know that USDA understands the fact that the more people that go into a school, especially somebody from outside of their community, just increases the chances of spreading COVID. Nobody wants that. So we'll keep you updated on that. That is just the list of possible administrative reviews for this school year. Production record books. We have electronic versions available on our child nutrition website. Each of these links that are underlined here are links to the information for those separate production record books. We will be able to print hard copies. We're going to be collecting an order form to determine how many need to be printed, but we do have funds available to print and send out hard copies upon request. One of the things to consider is meal counts, just because those pin pads are high touch surfaces. And of course, it's recommended to prevent, to try to avoid anything with a high touch surface. And it would be very, very difficult to wipe off or sanitize a pin pad after every single student touches it. So some ideas for non-touch methods of meal counts. There could be barcodes. A district could, for elementary classes, have a laminated list of students with little pictures of the students and then a barcode for each student. And as the students goes through the line, the cashier would just scan that barcode to record the meal count. I don't know if this is even available, but this is something I thought would work really well, is if older students could have our barcode right on their smartphone or some type of a device that could just be held up and then the district could scan that. Name checklists. This works well for small schools, but would not work for larger districts. It's just what it is, a name checklist where a staff member or teacher marks off the students that receive a reimbursable meal. POS systems, a student tells cashier their number and then the cashier enters the number, or again, those POS systems might be able to display a screen for a whole classroom where the cashier touches the student picture as they go through the line and that records the meal count. I do need to share with you an idea from my colleague in Wyoming. They have really small schools and they're thinking about having a container of pencils where the student goes through, picks up the pencil, either marks their name or writes down their number, and then the pencil goes into the dirty pencil pile. So they have clean pencils, each student uses a different pencil, and then it goes into a soiled pencil pile where they're all sanitized and then used for the next day. That's something I heard. I don't know if that's something that's possible in your district, but I thought it was pretty innovative. In some cases, with the change in the meal count methods, it might work better to do the meal counts at the beginning of the serving line. Regulations do say that meal counts should be done at the end of the serving line to ensure that students have received a reimbursable meal. However, there are opportunities to get a waiver to this if there is a need. If your district or school feels they need to move the meal count method to the beginning of the line, you can send an email to Deborah Rhonda with the reason why the meal counts need to be taken at the beginning of the line, and then how the school will ensure that the student trays will be checked at the end of the line to ensure that the students take reimbursable meals. I mentioned this in our other session. We really value your input. This is going to be a year of challenge, a year of innovation, I seriously believe, but we really want your input on what type of information you need from us, what resources are needed, whether or not it would be helpful to have regularly scheduled Teams meetings, such as what we're doing right now. If so, what topics, how often, what time would work best for you? Other communications, we've been using constant contact quite a bit, which is a way of sending out information through an email, but we're able to then house that information on our website in a manner that's very easily accessible. And then finally, what are your main concerns? How can we help? Excuse me. All right, I'm going to stop to see if there's any questions.
I do not have any in there so far, no.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to some of the more normal admin information for the school year. With the new school year, we always have our renewals on our ND Foods to complete, and those are open right now for completion. Another thing that is done at the beginning of the school year is a free and reduced priced applications, and then any changes that might be made with the programs. Most of our districts do participate in breakfast, but some that haven't in the past may be adding that this year. And when you do your renewal, that's when you can indicate what programs the district is going to be participating in. Program forms, you may remember that last year we collected all of our program forms on ND Foods as part of the renewal process. And fortunately, these are permanent forms that do not need to be redone every year unless something has changed. The only change that might be occurring for some districts is a change in the meal counting claim preparation. However, we're not going to ask you to change that form if it's something having to do with differences in meal service methods. We're going to collect that through that other form that I had mentioned. Meal counting forms are available on in ND Foods now. You can access a new one there, or also under our website. Where to find program information? Our website, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, did change. The link to our website is listed right up on the top there. When you get into the website, you will be able to access the different programs, and then under each program, you'll see different areas such as policies, manuals, guidance. The meal production book information is there, forms and tools, and then the free and reduced price information is also another choice on that page. Some of the beginning of the year forms, of course, you're going to need your free and reduced price application materials. Other forms, again, letter to households for verification, medical statements, application information release, and food service contract. That is if you're going to be contracting meals from a different facility. Call our office if you need that contract. I did include some of these forms as handouts with this session. If you're looking for any of the other forms or anything else, you can contact our office and we would be happy to point you to where those are located or send them to you. Other program forms, the collection of racial ethnic data. These are some of the forms that need to be printed out and then completed at the district level and kept on file. On-site review. This is for districts that have more than one site participating in the programs. And then the edit check or the claims review process. And I'll be talking about those a little bit later in this session. All forms are completed and kept on file then when we check them during the reviews. The after-school snack program, if you do participate in after-school snacks, there is an addendum to the program agreement that would only be required for any new programs. If you've already participated in the after-school snack program, we don't collect the addendum every year. There is an educational or enrichment activity requirement. There is also a self-monitoring requirement that has to be done one time during the first 4 weeks of operation plus one other time. An at-risk site for after-school snacks. If the site is located in a school with 50% or more of the students enrolled eligible for free or reduced price meals, then all of the snacks are claimed at the free rate. And as with any of our programs, menus and meal counts must be kept for the after-school snack program. Record retention, with our federal program, the record retention requirements is for the current fiscal year plus 3 previous years. It includes all of the materials that support the food service. That would be claims for reimbursement, meal count records and backup, applications, receipts and invoices, labor documentation, menus and production records. And if you happen to be one of our few districts that participate in Provision 2, base year information has to be maintained forever. As long as the district is on Provision 2 for that base year, those records must be maintained. I'm not going to go too much in depth on civil rights because we're going to have a full hour on civil rights tomorrow. But some of the key things is that the non-discrimination clause must be written on all program material distributed to households. And this is on our CN website on our main page. There is a long and a short version. The short version is USDA is an equal opportunity provider and employer. And that would be on any material that would be 1 page, like a handout that would go out. It's not required to put the non-discrimination clause on menus. And again, during the civil rights session tomorrow, I'll be talking about what needs it and what does not. The Injustice for All poster does have the non-discrimination clause on it. However, for some reason, it looks different than the one that's on our website. So use the one that's on our website. Sponsors need to have a policy of how to handle discrimination complaints. And discrimination complaints have to be reported to our office. And the Injustice for All poster also explains how to file a complaint, and the poster must be in a location where the children can see it. I have also uploaded or sent out the civil rights complaint information for you as to a complaint log, procedure for complaints, and that type of information is one of the handouts for this session. Free and reduced price meals. Again, the information that you need for free and reduced price meals is on our website under the free and reduced price information. That one box on the school nutrition program webpage. The forms that you're going to need are the letter to households and the application form. Timeframes, date all applications when you receive them and when they are determined. Applications must be determined and families must be notified within 10 days. And the first date of eligibility is the date that the district receives a complete application. So that's why it's very important to date the applications at the time you receive them. You cannot go back to the first day of the month in which that application was received. It has to be no earlier than the date that the application was received. A complete application was received by the district. It's also not the date that the household dated it, because that might be a different date than when the district received it. Categorical eligibility, any category where a student can be eligible for free or reduced price meals without submitting an application. However, it can be information put on an application that would also make a student categorically eligible. Some of the categories are foster child, and this is one thing that can be indicated on the application. With foster children are automatically eligible for free meals. They also are considered a member of the family if the family applies for free reduced price meals. Homeless children, each district has a homeless liaison who should be notifying the food service of those students that qualify for free meals because they are homeless. Some definitions of homelessness is no permanent place of residence, living in homeless shelters, emergency shelters, vehicles, substandard housing, or even where they're living, temporary living with other members in a different household because they have no place else to live. Again, it's the homeless liaison for the district who makes that decision for homelessness. Direct certification. We have a direct certification system in which DPI matches enrolled students with a list of food stamp recipients aged between ages of 3 and 19. Those matches are then the matches are then recorded in STARS, and a list is available to the district once the district uploads the new school year enrollment information into STARS. And so we have a lot of eligible students in STARS right now because the food stamp office has been updating their lists, but you won't get your list until the district basically opens up the transfer of data from PowerSchool into STARS for the new school year. You will get ongoing email notifications when there are matches and the district needs to go and collect those new directly certified students. In the past years, we have included student names on those notifications. Beginning this school year, we cannot put those names on there because it is personal identifying information and really is very gray area when it comes to FERPA laws. So if you receive a notification, the district will need to go in and pull the list from STARS. There is a way of sorting that list so that you can find just the new notifications and you don't have to redo every single one. And we can help you with that if there's any questions. Any student that's been directly certified are automatically free with no further paperwork. The district must notify the household, and there is a form letter from a letter template from our office called the Notice of Predetermined Eligibility. In households where there are at least one household member or one child determined as directly certified, any other siblings or other children within that household are also determined to be directly certified and are extended that free meal eligibility. In those situations, the district needs to document that information. It could be as simple as having the student names that are extended eligibility, and then making a notation, same household as the name of the student that is directly certified. Every district kind of has a different process, but it's just a simple notation of which household they live in, and that's why the eligibility is being extended. There is a requirement that all applications must be determined, verified, and maintained in a central location. And so these determinations should be done at one location. Determinations should not be done by, if you have 5 schools in a district, 5 different people making those determinations, it should be assigned to one person to complete this work and then maintain that data. Main reason is because then they can catch any of the siblings from other schools, as well as just maintaining that very confidential information. Excuse me. So free and reduced price applications. Sponsors must have a valid application or documentation on file for each student receiving free or reduced price meals. Applications from the prior year, and that would be eligibility from the prior year, is valid for the first 30 operating days of the school year. And that is mandatory. So you count 30 operating days into the school year, and that is the cutoff point. You can't say 1st of October if that's only 26 days. Has to be 30 operating days. Eligibility from prior year ends with the approval or denial of a new year application. So once you get a new application and make a determination, that prior year eligibility is then stopped and the new year eligibility begins. Approved applications are valid for the entire school year. Households don't need to report income increases or a loss of food stamp or SNAP benefits. Households can still reapply if an increase in benefits may be possible. However, verification may change eligibility status depending on the results of that. As mentioned, eligibility is good for the first 30 days of the new school year. Eligibility transfers with the child even if they move to a different school within the district or to even a different town within the state or out of state. This is a federal program, so that eligibility can be transferred to other states. Siblings just starting school this year, say a child that was preschool or not in school last year but starts kindergarten this year, and are eligible from last year's application, do get that 30-day carryover into the new school year along with their siblings. Reportable income on the applications, of course, salaries, wages, tips, interest, net income from self-business or farm, commissions, unemployment, workers' comp, social security, VA benefits, child support, and alimony. The amount received, you do not get to deduct any amount that is paid out. Income from pensions or rental income. Income exclusions, student financial assistance, loan, in-kind compensation. I put stimulus payments on here because I do believe that they are excluded. They are considered, of course, occasional earnings, so I'm going to let them fall underneath there, but I do not believe they have to be reported as income. And income from federal programs that exclude such income by legislative prohibitions, such as combat pay for military. To determine if an application is complete, you need to look at the application form, and there are 4 steps to the application form. Step 1 is where the household lists all household members who are infants, children, and students up to and including grade 12. It also includes collecting information on the school, if the child is enrolled in school, and the grade. In this area, you also indicate if the student is foster, homeless, migrant, or runaway. Step 2, the household can indicate if any members are participating in SNAP, TANF, or FDPIR. FDPIR is the food distribution program on Indian reservations. So that would be available to any of the households living in those areas. If yes, they must include a case number for SNAP or TANF. There is no case number for FDPIR, so a yes is sufficient for FDPIR, but if it's a SNAP or TANF, they have to include a case number or else it's not complete. Step 3, reporting income for all household members, including child income. That child income section is only for children who receive wages or salary on a regular basis. So if it's babysitting or maybe mowing lawns or whatever, or just summer work, that should not be listed as income. It would only be if it's income received during the school year on a regular basis. Step 3 should be skipped if the information in step 2 was answered yes and a case number was provided. If the household receives no income, they are to write 0. If they write 0, they are certifying that there is no income to report. The household must also provide the last 4 digits of the Social Security number of the primary wage earner, or if there is no Social Security number, they just mark, put an X in a box that says no Social Security number. Farming or business income, they may use information from the most recent tax form 1040. This would be the net business profit or loss. If current income situation is not reflected on the tax form, say they had a really good year for farming last year, but they lost everything this year to hail, they can use an estimate because we're looking at as current income as current as possible. Farming and business income or loss does not offset any other household income. So if there's a loss in, say, a $60,000 loss in farming or business, but there's this person in the household who perhaps makes $80,000 in their job, you would not subtract the $60,000 from the $80,000. The farming, the loss would be considered a 0, and the full amount of any other income would be counted as income for the household. For seasonal workers, of course, their monthly income fluctuates significantly. If previous year's income accurately reflects current income, you may use information from a tax form, or the household may project its annual rate of income. Some special situations, we talked about 0 income. Child support or alimony that fluctuates, the household member that's completing the application can provide information as to how often that is being received, and the school can take that as the amount that's being received. So they say I'm supposed to get $500 a month, but I only get it every other month, then the school could make a notation on that application and use that information for determining the income. College students are considered to be household members because in most cases, households are helping support those college students as they're away. If there's regular income for that college student, that would be counted as income. However, any student loans or any other financial assistance that's being received would not be counted as income. Hardship conditions, essentially when it comes to the free and reduced priced applications, there are no hardship conditions that can be considered to offset income for that household. If there would be a situation, I guess here's a situation where the household could reapply, where they applied and they didn't qualify, but then one of the household members, an income earner, becomes ill and possibly even has to go down to Mayo Clinic for several months. If that would happen and then there's no income coming in because that person is unable to work, that household can then reapply and then qualify for free or reduced price meals possibly. So there might be situations where it's a hardship condition, but it also is something that can be documented and as having an impact on the income, and then that can be considered in making a new determination. Districts may make application or complete applications on behalf of a child if they have students that are known to be eligible for meal benefits. The determination is made based on household size and any income information available. It's intended for limited use in individual situations and must not be used for categories or groups of students. But it seems like every district has one or two families where it's well known that their income is low or very, very, very low, but they are not completing an application. They might be building up a big amount of unpaid meal charges. And so definitely use this as something that can provide benefits to those children, as well as protect your food service account by not having a bunch of unpaid meal charges. So that being said, you want to complete these as soon as you know the situation. It's not meant to be completed at the end of the school year to make up for all of the charges from the beginning of the school year, because you can't go back to claim meals for these students. Not meant for everyone who does not pay, because some people just don't pay even though they can afford to. Don't wait till May and expect to claim for the entire school year. And it cannot be used at no charge schools. So if your school does not charge for meals, then this is not an option. A little bit more about meal counts. Maintained off of actual meals consumed. So you cannot do meals based on attendance or students who raise their hand at the beginning of the school day. It must be based on those actual meals being served and consumed. It must be taken at the point of service. The point of service is the point where the students have had a chance to go through the serving line. And they must be taken at each meal service. So if you serve breakfast and lunch, you have to do meal counts both at breakfast and lunch. It must yield an accurate daily count of the number of free, reduced priced, and paid meals. So those meals must be counted based on individual student eligibility. Computerized meal counting systems are very prevalent right now. I know very few districts that actually don't use a computerized system of some point. And then we did talk about that meal counting claim preparation form where the district explains how they're going to be doing their meal counts. Computerized meal counting systems, like I said, many districts do use them. One thing about a computerized system is there has to be an alternate system in place in case the system fails. So if you come into school to serve breakfast and the system is down, or the vendor is doing an update and it won't be available till 10 o'clock, well, then there has to be some way of doing those meal counts at the time of meal service in place of using that computerized system. When using a computerized meal counting system, you want to make sure that the system is set up to claim children in the correct eligibility category. Compare your eligibility roster to the computer eligibility. That's a good way of making that check. And then check for accidental carryover last year's eligibility for more than 30 days. One of the most common things we see in districts when we do our administrative reviews that results in quite a bit of fiscal action is that districts forget to change students over to paid eligibility after that first 30 days when the family has not reapplied. So it's very important to keep track of those 30-day carryovers and then set a day on your calendar, maybe even put a reminder in the system to switch those over after the 30 days if the family has not completed a new application. Claims for reimbursement are due in ND Foods by the 10th of the month. They're filed based on site information. One thing about our system is that once you complete the claims, they're in a status called completed, then there's another step that needs to be done to submit those claims to our office. Edit checks. Edit check is required. It basically compares your daily meal counts by eligibility category to the attendance adjusted number of eligible students. So what that means is that if you have 100 students eligible for free meals, but your attendance is 96%. So on average day, 96% of your students are in attendance. Your attendance number of free eligible students would be 96. So you would compare your daily meal counts for the month, and any day where if you had any day where more than 96 free meals were served, you would need to double check those numbers just to make sure you're not overclaiming in that category. It's completed each month for each site and each meal. Most of the computerized meal counting systems will run a report for you for this, so that's a very nice feature of those systems. And just for your information, your attendance factor is listed on the site application in ND Foods, and it is equal to the average attendance divided by the enrollment. This is an example of the edit check similar to the one I had mentioned before. It's just looking at the number of eligibles times the attendance factor and then comparing your daily meal counts to that adjusted number. If you have an adjustment to your claim, if it's upward where you would be getting additional money, those adjustments must be made within 60 days of the end of the claim period. So you want to make changes quickly. If it's downward, we'll take your money back at any time. USDA has no restrictions with that. You can do adjustments after the 60 days in some instances, and let me see. Okay. Sponsors can be granted an exception every 3 years for this late claim. Also, upper claims can be filed after 60 days without an exception if the error is found on a review or within an audit. Unpaid meal counts. Every district is required to have a policy regarding meal charges and unpaid meal counts, and the district is required to inform the households of the policy. The households should be kept informed regarding outstanding meal charges and student balances, and remind households throughout the year about applying for meal benefits. The sample letter and handouts is not one of the handouts I sent out. I just caught that. But we do have, by now, most districts do have a sample letter that they're using and definitely have a policy regarding meal charges and unpaid meals. Some suggestions about unpaid meal accounts: the more frequently you send the notices, the more likely they're going to pay, because it's not going to be a high amount. The higher the unpaid balance, the harder it is to collect. You can deny meals if stated in policy. However, I would say there's not a single policy in the state that does deny meals. However, you must serve the student if they have money for that day, no matter how much the balance owed is. Okay, moving into verification. Scott, do I have any questions?
No, you do not.
Okay, thank you. So once all of the applications are collected and determined, the district is required to verify 3% of the approved applications. All sources of income on that application must be verified, and you can use several different sources of documentation for verification, such as check stubs, copies of checks, in some cases tax forms, meal benefit notices, or bank statements. Important dates to remember: October 1st is the date where you count the number of approved applications on file to determine your sample size, and November 15th is the date when verification should be completed. Verification activities actually can begin anytime after the start of the school year, but verification can't delay the approval of the applications, and a good practice would be to put a sticky note on error-prone applications when doing the determination, because those are the applications that are most subject to being verified. Your sample size is based on the number of applications on file as of October 1st. So your basic sample, for instance, would be if you have 168 approved applications on file, approved applications, you take that times 0.03 or 3%. Your total in this case is 5.04. You always have to round up. So even though it's very, very close to just 5 on this in this sample, you always have to round up. And so the requirement in this sample would be 6. And this is the total number of applications that have to be verified. An error-prone application is an application where the total household income is within $100 a month or $1,200 a year of the eligibility limit. Again, take these applications right away, because those are the ones that are most likely going to be prone to being verified. Focus verification is first priority for those error-prone. From those error-prone applications, you select your required sample size. You should do some type of random selection if you have more than what your sample size is. If you don't have enough error-prone, then you randomly select additional applications to fulfill the requirement. You cannot exceed 3% for verification either. You cannot. You can verify what's called verify for cause if you feel that there's a strong need or there's a strong belief or knowledge that what was written on that application is incorrect, but those are in addition to your normal sample. If your prior year non-response rate was less than 20%, that means you had a really good rate of response in the prior year. Everybody or most everybody responded to your verification requests. You could do an alternate sample where you don't have to focus on those error-prone applications. You can just pick 3% of all of the applications on file as of October 1st at random. And again, only if your non-response rate was good. Before you complete the verification process, there has to be a second review of those applications that were selected for verification. This is called the confirmation review. It's to make sure and check the accuracy of original determination. And it has to be someone other than the individual who made the initial determination for eligibility that does that confirmation review. This is a way for technology-based systems that demonstrate high degree of accuracy, and the state agency would determine if this system qualifies. This would be just a handful of our systems within the state in our larger districts. So the results of the confirmation review depends on what action is taken. So if there's no change in status, then you would just go ahead and verify the application. If the status changes from reduced price to free, you increase the benefits immediately and notify the household, and then you continue to verify the application. If the status changes from free to reduced price, you don't change the status, you still verify the application, notify the household of the correct eligibility status after verification, and if required, send the household a notice of adverse action. That would be if it actually truly did move from free to reduced price. And then if the status changes from free or reduced price to paid, you would immediately send the household a notice of adverse action. Don't verify the application. Select a similar application, such as another error-prone application for verification, and follow the confirmation review procedures for that second application. There are some special circumstances. District can decline to verify up to 5% of the applications in the selected sample. This would be a situation where it's a fragile household that is not going to respond, or is, just even difficult to get a hold of, or communication difficulties in a situation where there's language barriers and it's just very difficult for them to even understand what is required. But that's limited to 5% of the applications. If that happens, then you would choose another application to replace the ones that are declined. Verification methods, you can written evidence, collateral contacts, or agency records. In most cases, it's going to be written evidence. There is also direct verification, where you can obtain information for public agency records. So if a household filled out an application and put a case number on it, the SNAP office could be contacted to verify that case number. FDPIR, if that's listed on there, the FDPIR office could be contacted for verification. Households that are chosen to be verified receive written notice that their application was selected for verification. They are required to confirm eligibility, and the district must provide a toll-free method for the household to contact the school. If the household does not respond within 2 weeks, probably, I would set a time frame up to do a follow-up, and at least one follow-up attempt is required, either through mail, email, personal contact, use of a third party if there is a need for some language translation, or just being able to contact that person, or by phone. What if the household doesn't provide the information? Then the application is terminated for no response. What if verification indicates household is not eligible for benefits originally determined? A notice is sent to the household about the change in benefits, and then also that the benefits are changed. And that does override that year-long eligibility. If a household that is terminated because they did not respond to their verification, or because their income did not was over the limit for free reduced price meals, and then they reapply that school year, that household is still subject to verification. Once chosen for verification, always subject to verification for those households. You need to maintain a description of your verification efforts and all of your verification documentation on file with all of your other records. And verification must be completed by on or before November 15th. There is a verification summary report that has to be submitted to our office by December 15th, and that is submitted through our office. I am not going to go through the process for completing that verification summary report, because I feel it would be more important for us to do a separate training on that, and I'm kind of getting short on time. So maintaining applications, make sure you maintain all of the applications that were received. If you receive an application for a student that then becomes directly certified, you're going to mark directly certified on top of that application, put it in a separate file, and then change that student status to directly certified, but still maintain that other application on file as backup. You're going to want to organize your applications by eligibility category and then also by like a separate file for your direct certified ones. You need to maintain your denied applications as well. As with all of the other records, maintain those applications for 3 years plus the current fiscal year. Also maintaining that eligibility roster. So along with all of those applications, you need to be able to generate a list of students by eligibility category. So a list of students that are receiving free benefits, a list of students that are directly certified, a list of students that are reduced priced eligible, so that you're able to match those up to the applications themselves. All of this information is confidential. It can be shared in some situations, but cannot be shared for just anything within the district. And I'll be talking about that a little bit later. There are foreign language translations available on the USDA website, I believe in 43 different languages at this time. And then again, if a student transfers into your district, you can contact that other district and ask for that information. That is one allowable means of sharing eligibility information for the purpose of continuing benefits for students who transferred. I already talked about the eligibility roster. It's important to maintain and update the list as new applications are received and students transfer in and out of the district. You need to have a separate list for each school site. And of course, you need eligibility documentation for each name on the list shown as receiving free reduced priced meals. Disclosure of student information. Individual student eligibility information may be disclosed to some federal and state education and/or nutrition programs. You can share eligibility information with other child nutrition programs. So if you're contacted by a child care facility because their parents said that their children go to one of your elementary schools during the day, you can share that information with the child care facility for the purpose of their program participating in the child and adult care food program. Other programs such as free busing, free textbooks, things like that, the family must sign a release form before that information can be shared. And we do have a release form template that is available from our office if you are interested in getting one. Many districts include that release form right along with the application when it's sent out, listing all of the different services that they can receive if they are qualifying for free reduced price meals, and that really cuts down on the paperwork and you get that information right away. All right, where am I for time? I got about 15 minutes. I'm going to just go a little bit into financial management. This is our new reimbursement rates for the new school year. And that's the lunch rates include that additional 7 cents that's received for meeting the meal pattern requirements. The USDA food value, Tara went over this during her session today, but for the school year 21, the rate is 37 cents per meal. And Tara explained how that is calculated during her session. There must be a way of accounting for food service expenses and revenue in a separate account. Revenue expenses must be identified in appropriate categories. The account may not have a negative balance, and all transfers from the general fund in and out of the account must be clearly documented. The financial management system must account for revenues and expenditures. All expenditures must be supported with documentation. Effective controls must be in place for the revenue. So somebody needs to be able to control. There must be separation of duties. So if one person is collecting money for meal tickets and another person should be filling out the deposit slip and making sure that money gets deposited into the right account. Ledger of some sort must be maintained. And the school nutrition program fund must maintain a nonprofit status, which means you can have a balance in that fund, but it cannot be over a certain amount. We definitely discourage employee purchasing through the school food service fund because it's very difficult to track. Many times those purchases do not get reimbursed by the employee. It does cause false amounts of expenses for that account, and it encourages possible dishonest use of the food service account. Some of the revenue and expenditure categories that would be included with your food service account. I am making these slides available to everybody, so I might be going through some quickly, but they will be available. Purchasing and selling foods of non-program foods such as a la carte. If purchased by the food service account, revenue must go back to the food service account. Must be self-sustaining. In other words, revenue from the sales of these items must cover the entire cost of purchasing and selling the items, and you must be able to track this. Interest. Any interest accrued to the food service funds must remain in the food service account. Some more revenue controls, and I had already talked about some of these already. A la carte income must cover food costs. Okay, pricing meals, the PLA, paid lunch equity. Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act of 2010 added this requirement to get the paid meal cost or price up to or close to what the free reimbursement is. And this year it's $3.58, and that's with the additional 7 cents. We can't require you to raise more than 10 cents a year, but you can raise as high as you want. You can carry over any extra increase. And you can claim any general fund kick in. So if the general fund contributes to the school food service account, that can be counted towards that price increase. You can request an exception to this if the school food service account has a positive balance, and you can contact Deb Egland for assistance. Pricing adult meals. Adult meals cannot be subsidized by the program. Price must be the highest student price plus the paid lunch reimbursement and the commodity reimbursement. So right now that would be 70 cents. I believe that we have stated that you should look at having that amount be at least 75 cents higher than your highest student price. That would account for any fluctuations in those reimbursement rates as we plan for this new school year. You can have a higher guest price than for what you charge your adults at the school. And that slide should not be in there. Reduced price meals. The reduced price lunch must be 40 cents or less. You cannot charge more than 40 cents. Reduced price breakfast must be 0, and that's because the state pays the reduced price breakfast cost to the schools. If you're having trouble collecting unpaid meals, these reduced price patrons, you might want to consider collecting from them, because if they never pay, you still receive $3.18 for lunch and $1.59 for breakfast from DPI, which is more than most schools charge. That's an interesting fact. Programs must maintain nonprofit status to continue on school lunch. Your reserve account cannot exceed 3 months of operating expenses. To determine that, you take your annual expenses divided by 3, and that would be your limit. So if your expenses are $75,000, your fund balance can be $25,000 in reserve. If your fund balance is too high, you must develop a plan and send that into our office on how you will spend down those additional funds. There is a state match payment that's sent out every spring. We are required to use state funds to match a certain amount of the costs or the reimbursement that's sent out. The state match is used to support the cost of the warehousing and transportation of the USDA foods. The balance is paid out in the spring. However, recently, the remainder has been returned to the districts in the summer because we have been receiving additional reallocated administrative funds from USDA for this purpose. I believe we've been able to do this for the last 5 or 6 years. It's never guaranteed because we never know if USDA is going to have additional funds, but it has been very successful, which means that we are able to pass on those savings to your districts. This state match payment is should be noted as a separate entry in your ledger because it is not federal reimbursement. Well, just a little bit explanation about especially needed in severe need breakfast. If the district has 60% or more of the enrolled students in previous year eligible for free meals, or they get an extra 2 cents per meal for lunch, and schools that have 40% or more of the lunches served 2 years previous claimed at the free reduced price rates are eligible for severe need breakfast rates where they get an additional 37 cents for each free and reduced price breakfast. You can see whether or not you're eligible for severe need breakfast on your site application for SNP. A list of allowable expenses and unallowable expenses, I'm not going to go into that. Procurement, North Dakota law requires competitive bids on purchases over $50,000. Federal law, I believe, is $250,000 now, but for North Dakota, it's $50,000. So anything under $50,000, you can use a small purchase method, receive quotes, and then award your bid to the lowest quote. But anything higher than $50,000 does require a formal competitive bid. And then there is a requirement to check debarred and suspended lists for contracts over $25,000, and there's a website to do that. Buy American, schools are required to buy products grown in the United States. There are some exceptions for items not grown here, such as bananas, but any type of product, and this has been something we've been noticing that some districts have been buying canned fruit and thinking that it's American grown, and when we look at the labels, it's like produced in China or Taiwan. So really make sure that your vendors know that you are required to buy American. Check labels and document your exceptions for products that you cannot find at all. But there are very few that you're not able to buy locally or domestically. When looking at purchasing, make sure you have specifications for what you want to purchase. Something important to know is that you cannot copy a company's specifications or let a company write your specifications or any part of your bid, or else they are not able to bid on that solicitation. And any capital equipment purchases over $5,000 do require state approval. We do have a list of pre-approved equipment purchases, and I believe that will be shared during the equipment grant session. Sanitation inspections, remember that 2 are required each school year. Most frequent critical violations tend to be dishwasher temperatures, food temperatures, holding, serving, and food stored on the floor. I highly recommend that you attend Rhonda's food Safety and Beyond session. She had one this morning, but she'll be holding another one later this week. Very, very important information, not just for COVID, but also just food safety in general. Inspections must be posted in a place visible to the public. And we collect that information to report to USDA. The sanitation training requirement, the lead food service worker at each site must attend sanitation training, and then there is ongoing update training required after that every 5 years. Administrative reviews. We've implemented a 5-year review cycle, as I mentioned earlier. We're not quite entirely sure what we'll be doing, if we're going to be able to do desk audits or not. We will keep you posted on that. Some of the information that we look at is the school breakfast and school lunch program, meal patterns, menus, resource manager, and any other federal programs that the school might be participating in. List of the administrative reviews planned for this school year. And then finally, resources. And some of these resources I did include in handouts. And then others are available if you think of something that you need. Definitely contact our office. Our toll-free number and our web or our email address is available for you right on that screen. That is all I have. Are there any questions, Scott?
No, we do not have any questions.
I think we have about 3 minutes if anybody has any questions that they want to put in the chat. Okay, well, if not.
I did put in the chat, we are going to be going to the roundtables.
Okay.
So I did
All right.
put those links in the chat here for you guys.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I know I went through a lot of this information very quickly. I didn't know if I'd be able to fill an hour and a half, and now I feel like I needed 2 hours, but I'm sure an hour and a half is more than enough of this information. If you have any questions, again, please contact our office. We are more than happy to help you out. And I hope to see you on some of our other sessions in the next couple of days. Thanks again.
Bye, guys. Thank you.